Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX, and this is our 2022 450 roundtable for our shootout. We're going to break these videos up. If you're watching this intro, this might be for the Honda, the Cowie, the Suzuki, the Yamaha, etc. But we have one on each bike because, man, they would be too long to sit down and play through at once. So whatever bike one you're about to watch, check it out. And if you want, check out the others as well to learn everything from this year's shootout. Move on to for me was the head scratcher of the shootout. Because once again, we have the Gas in second, almost won. The KTM in a solid second, and then the Husky is sitting sixth place. And I will start by saying I couldn't justify ranking it. It ended up sixth place on my list, and I could not find a way to justify it higher. People are going to, I know people look at those three bikes are the same. I think you put, here's a crazy one to me is, these OEMs put years into developing this motorcycle, starting the Austrian. It's always going to start with the KTM. Then the Husky's got a different subframe, a different swing arm, and it's got this 10 millimeter lower suspension in front and rear. And you got to think of how much development time went into the parts that got thrown on it later. I'm not saying that they just threw them on, but it can take a bike that was so precisely built, and it can show why in the gas, throwing a couple things on it, oh my God, I got a little better. Or you throw a couple of the wrong things on it, and oh man, we went the wrong direction. And I know I've ran a few people that like the little bit lower suspension on the Husky. I do not. I couldn't stand it. Everything I did to that motorcycle was to try to make it like the KTM Husky. Went all the way flush on the forks to try to get that out. I heard your SAG number. I did not go as high as you because I thought that was insane, but I never run anything higher than like a 104, 105. I tend to be a little bit on the lower side. Again, short arms where I sit on a bike. I think I was running I tried 102, 101 on the Husky. Everything was like, let's get this thing back up out of the stroke. I understand their whole point of it being lower, more the vet feel, comfort. It's low to the ground, it's planted. But everything about that for action and comfort was horrible for me. It felt like it was wallowing around everywhere, especially on the sand track, trying to push the bike. I was like, oh, I'm on throttle. It feels like the bike's sinking through the rear, all in the front. It's going down to a stroke and beating me up. And the problem was no matter what I did to the bike to get it more like the KTM and the gas, I could sort of head that direction, but I could never get it to what they were.
And like you said, it was supposed to be aimed at the vet guy, and it's like I am exactly that. 35 years old, not fast. On paper, this is the bike that I'm supposed to like the most. And like you said, I mean, you're in a weird spot in the stroke of the suspension that it's just not, it doesn't work well. It's still handled pretty well in the corner for me. So that's why I was like, okay, I like that. I still like that it has the same KTM, gas, Husky, slim feeling, light feeling, neutral seat, all the ergos. I like all that on all three bikes. But then we haven't talked about the power. It's just, it is kind of in the middle zone for me between, with the KTM and the gas. It still has that little kind of step up, but then it's not as powerful as the KTM and not as linear as the gas. So it's in this kind of dead zone for me. So for me, I put it fifth, just above the Cowie.
Yeah, I struggled. Gosh. First day at Glen Helen, I got on it, and I did not know that it was 10 mil lower right off the bat. I just went out there, and they set the sag at 104, and I rode it, and I come back, and I was just like, something doesn't feel right. And I couldn't really get that feeling out of my head. So made a couple little minor changes, and I really wanted to kind of sleep on that one and try a lot of stuff day two, and which is what I did. So came to the sand track the second day, had a game plan. Went out there, rode it exactly the same as I rode it the first day. Made a couple minor tweaks. I said, all right, let's go back to the regular setting, and then I want to go flush on the forks, and then I went aggressive. I went 98 sag. I really wanted to see how it felt at the standard everything, and then how it felt to get it up. And I got it up, and I got that playful feeling that I kind of had on the gas and the KTM, which is nice because if you do like the bike to feel lower and a little bit more connected to the ground, then it has that ability. But then if you want to kind of get it up higher up off the ground, it has that ability too. You just kind of have to play with sag and fork rod height. But the bike just, even the way the stock bars were rolled back, I felt like my body position on the gas. I didn't like how I felt in the, I guess you would say, the cockpit. Just ergonomically, it didn't feel good for me. The power was smooth. I didn't think it was anything great. as I would roll it on in the corners, I wish for a little bit more pickup. I found myself dabbing my foot a lot because I was waiting for it to go, and you really had to kind of lean on it and feather the clutch a little bit. So that was why the Husky, I had it 6th. And it just, even when I got the forks flush and the sag at 98, as I came into the corners, I still felt like the bike would go right through the top part of the stroke. It wanted to be in that lower to the mid part of the stroke and the shock, and it just would sit there. It never really got out.
And it was kind of a harsher spot to sit.
Like you
lost the plushness at the beginning.
It naturally went there, and that was why I went up higher on sag, because I wanted to get out of that mid part of the stroke, and it just naturally kind of seemed to go there.
I will say, like, because and I started it with being super negative, and I still am on it. But the one place I did find the positive between the suspension setting and the lower is, like, I rode it late in the day at Glen Helen, but I did not. The only way I found to enjoy is I enjoyed it more on, I don't want to call it my roll laps, but like my 85% laps. I think the one thing it's always weird to perceive also as well is whether you're fast or not is also pushing your limit versus not. Not necessarily if you're really quick, or even if you aren't as quick, like, I think that's where we say, like, bikes, you know, hey, this was rewarding when I pushed it. Hey, I'm not saying I'm pushing the bike to limit, but I'm pushing it to my limit. Right. I felt like the Husky is the bike that's a little more, it works better when you're really just cruising doing a moto. So at Glen Helen lane the day, I rode it mellow a couple times and, you know, low to ground. It felt planted. When I wasn't accelerating or braking hard, it felt comfortable. But like I said, everything went out the window when I wanted to try to go, okay, I want to go have fun. I want to pin it. I want to do something cool. I want to blow up a corner. Nope. Not there for me.
Yeah. It just didn't react the way that you expected it to.
No. And like I said, it's so weird is I hate to put them all in the same lump pile, but when you compare, I think the thing that hurts more is you see how the gas and the KTM work. And then you get on that and you're like,
you got to put it somewhere.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, these do it better, and it's so close, but yet so far.
It's interesting though. Just because I'm a tall rider, I obviously wouldn't like it lower. But you being shorter, you think you would have the biggest advantage with it.
What's really weird to say is, like I said earlier, the Yamaha felt good lower, and there is a certain aspect to how planted it feels when it's lower. But the problem for me with the Husky is what you guys all said is it sits. Not only is it physically lower on travel, but then it tends to fall through the first part of stroke, and you sit on a harsh point. So it's like, yes, it's more planted, but when it's harsh and the front won't comply with the ground, back to everything. I think the lower suspension, softer thing would work better with the cast clamp. Like, it's just, there's stiffness here. It's low. It settles into it, and it rides on a harsh spot. Once again, if I'm not pushing hard enough that I'm trying to force it through a stroke, there is some comfort in playing this. I can see what they're trying to get, and it might work for some guys, but I was not in that zone unless I was riding it, like I said, like 80, 85%.
Like trail riding it.
Like roll speed, just like not really.
I think it would enter a corner good, but once you got into the bumps in the corner, it would start to get that harshness. Yeah. But the setup in felt like being lower was good.
Back to what I said about the KTM Husky gas. I don't typically like linear engines. The Husky is so soft in character of engine, so linear. But like the KTM gas Husky, they all dyno really similar. But there's the difference in the actual, because it's the same mechanical engine other than the pipe, a little bit of mapping. But it's interesting how the difference in the draw of the airbox, a slightly different mapping, or a little bit different, the head pipe can change how it gets through that power. Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel like the Husky, like, it could chart the same, but the actual time it takes to do the work is different. It takes so much longer to get through anything.
Do you map all the bikes in map 1? Or, I mean, do you dyno them all in map 1?
I think he runs both maps.
Oh, really?
At Race Tech. Yeah, he runs both, and then whichever's the highest.
Oh, okay.
And bikes, it's pretty minor, other than the Yamaha when you go through the power turn, but the rest of them, it's pretty, the little button difference is really minor.
To go a little bit more on the Husky and not be rude about it, it did have some stuff that I did like about it. You know, when I did get the sag at 98 and I got the forks at flush, I messed around with some compression. Like I said, I never changed the air. I ran it at bar 10.7. But I did mess around with compression and stuff like that, and I did like some of the characteristics of the forks and the shock. Just there was more things that I didn't like that I did like.
No, thank you guys all for tuning in and listening to this. Like I said, that's why we do all this. There's a lot of information on each bike here. You can break it down, listen to the bike you're interested in, maybe even ones that you've been on the fence about, go through everything we said. Like I said, we put these out in multiple formats. If you're here, you've probably watched the short and sweet version we already did that was a lot quicker than this. And then if you want to learn more, me and Sean have talked about a lot about horsepower, weights, a lot of those figures. We have an article up on the website you can check out. Should be a link in the bio below. if you're the old school guy and you just want to read all this and not listen to us talk forever on YouTube, that route also works as well. But we'll be kicking off 250 Shootout here in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for more, and thanks for listening.